Hey everybody, Lonnie here again with Kirby University. Today we're going to do a video on integral colors. So let's get right into this. Integral colors, it's the color that's added to the concrete mix before the installation actually begins. This is going to put your color throughout the concrete, so it's going to get mixed in. You're going to add it to your sand and your Portland. Now, typically for us in our company, we are always putting our sand in first, and then we're adding our Portland, and from there then we're putting our color in, our admixtures, everything else that would go in there, and water is going to be last. I know there are some companies that will put their sand in and then they'll put their color and they'll put their Portland in after, and it may mix a little bit better for them, and things like that. So it's really just kind of personal preference. You don't want to put your color in first, obviously, because it's going to be on the bottom of the tub and it probably won't mix in properly. So usually for us it's sand, Portland, and then all the ingredients after that. Now for myself here in Bismarck, we use a couple different colors that we can get locally here. I've used a lot of Butterfield color just because it's readily available, and never really had any issues with anything that's been Butterfield. I use a select grade, just like the picture shown here. Also, we'll use a Solomon colors on a couple different things, especially if we're doing a charcoal type color, and get these bags, 35-pound bags. And, we go through a lot of this type of color. There's a lot of landscapers around here that really like that kind of a dark gray charcoal kind of curb. So we go through typically, 2 to 250 pounds a week. So it's better to have bigger bags, so you don't have to keep opening them. The one thing about integral color, it doesn't react well with moisture. So what you're going to need to do is make sure that when you get these and you store them so they're not going to get wet. You don't want them on the floor, things like that, because it'll pick up moisture, and some of that color will get to be get little chunks in it. And when you go ahead and mix that into your concrete, sometimes those chunks don't dissipate, and you'll get streaks in your curb. It happens to us, not all the time, but every once in a while you can really tell if there's a bag that got wet, or we pick up brand new bags and wherever they were storing them, they picked up some moisture, maybe high humidity, things like that. So that's one of the things you want to do is really keep dry. Most integral colors come in bags. I guess I've never seen it come in buckets. You can get them in many different sizes, from 1-pound bags all the way up to 50-pound bags, and probably even bigger than that. Typically for us, it's either 10-pounders all the way up to the 35-pounders and something like this. So what, I get a lot of questions on color charts and how much do I put in to get this color and all those things. Your color is going to depend on how much you put in. Okay, and that's going to be dictated by the percentage of Portland. There are some color charts out there that will say 1% load, 2% load, and things like that. So on a particular color chart like you're seeing here, this comes off the Butterfield chart that I would use. Fox gray is a color that we use a lot of. Now, we're typically most people are using single mixes, which is going to be a 47-pound bag of Portland. To make it simple, we're just going to round that up to 50. Okay, just for this, kind of this little video here. So 50 pounds of Portland. When you see a percentage on one of these charts and it says 2% load, 2% of 50, okay, it's going to be 1 pound. All right, so that would be 1 pound of color per mix, and it should be somewhat close. Now, there's a lot of variables when it comes to this. The color of your sand. If your sand is really light colored, your colors aren't going to be, when it's all said and done, aren't going to be as dark as the color chart. If your sand is darker, or sometimes different companies that have Portland use some different materials in there, that their Portland might be a little bit darker than people in other areas. So you're really going to have to kind of test this. Not all color charts have percentages on there either. They'll say 1 bag per yard or 2 bags per yard and things like that. So that's really not going to help you when it comes to a curbing mix. But typically, if you look at this chart right here, Butterfield has 4 colors that will represent that particular number. So Fox Gray would be a particular number that you would buy. And I don't do anything with the lightest color. So Gauntlet Gray, if you look at the chart here, Gauntlet Gray is a really, really light color, and that's going to be 1%. 2%. That's going to be a 2% load. So on a 50-pound bag, that's going to be 1 pound of that color into your mix. Uh, that tends to be really, really light when it's all said and done, when it's all cured out. Fox Gray would be a 4% load. So it's really the Gauntlet Gray and Fox Gray is all that I have on my color chart. So if you want a darker gray, you need to choose the Fox. If you want something that's lighter, Gauntlet is going to be the lighter tone. I'm still using the same color. It's just I'm putting more in one and not as much in the other. Uh, Now for me, my sand seems to be maybe a little bit lighter than what they have on the color chart, and typically customers if don't really complain if the sorry about that don't really complain if the color is too dark. They're going to complain if the color is too light. So what I've done with these charts is I've added some color. Let me turn my phone off. I've added some color to this. So on Gauntlet Gray, I'm only supposed to put a pound in there. Well, what I typically do, because we measure everything on site, we have a scale. I'm putting a pound and a quarter in each mix to get Gauntlet Gray, because I want that a little bit darker, just so people, when they look at the chart, say, you know what, it's pretty close. Fox Gray, I'm going to double that. So Fox Gray would typically be 2 pounds to get that 4% load. I'm putting 2.5 in there just to make sure that it's dark enough. Okay. That's something that you're going to have to adjust with your materials in your area. Now, these color charts also are sealed. Okay. So these colors represent your concrete that has been sealed with a concrete sealer, and that's going to make it darker. Okay. If you're not sealing your concrete, your colors are going to be much, much lighter than the chart. Okay, these are a representation of what those colors should look like under normal conditions, but there's lots of variables. That is a sealed color chart. Now, these colors that you're seeing right here, they almost look kind of brownish. So when you're looking at a chart on a computer or they're holding it in their hand, it's not going to be exactly the same as the ground. When a customer says, hey, I want you to match this, or this color on the house, can you match that? Match is not a word that we use. I go, you can't say the word match, because I cannot match that perfectly, and I can come close. I can give you maybe 2 or 3 different shades of colors that you need to choose from, but you need to pick that color, because if I picked a color that I think should work and you don't like it, now it's my fault. Always make sure you have the customer pick the color. It's their choice. They had options. They picked that color. That's what it is. Okay. Um, this particular picture, I'll show you 2 or 3 of them, is a Fox Gray. Okay, now when that color is put into your mix and there's water in there, and it's obviously, that water has got to evaporate and get out of your, in the curing process and hydration, it's got to evaporate in there. That colored concrete is going to look way, way darker when you put it down than it will 2 days later. Okay, so you need to let your customer know, hey, yes, you picked a Fox Gray. It's a nice dark gray color, kind of a charcoal type color, but it is not black. When we put it down, it will look black, but you give it a couple days of curing, depending on the heat, a couple days of curing, and that will cure out to this nice dark gray, but not black. As this cures out, there's going to be a lot of splotchiness. Stuff that's in the shade most of the day is going to take longer to cure out, so that's going to stay darker longer than stuff that's in direct sunlight. Okay, so you have to let your customers know, hey, you have to let this cure out for a while. In early spring and late fall, when it's really cool, 50s, things like that, it takes a couple days for that to cure out so you can really see the true colors. In the middle of July, when it's really, really hot, by the end of the day, some of that's mostly cured out, so you're going to see those colors. But stuff in the shade might still be dark. Let your customer know ahead of time that those things can happen, so you don't get those callbacks that you don't want. Here's another example. This has been sitting for just a little bit, probably a couple hours in direct sunlight, starting to cure out just a little bit. You can see some of the lighter colors that we've pulled away from the curb there. That's really curing out. Okay, so there's going to be lights and darks. There's going to be splotchiness. Let them know. Again, this is a smooth colored curb. They just want something that has a simple color in it. no stamp, anything like that. It's a great way to make make money, because it's not going to take you any longer to do colored curb than it will gray. You just got to seal it at the end, and that's about it. Another picture here, different angle with the sun. This has been sealed, and one suggestion I give you is if possible, and there's areas of the country that are different when it comes to sealers. Um, Try to stay away from water-based sealers when it comes to sealing this, because typically we're going to seal this right away, and water-based with moisture on a curb doesn't really react well to each other. And typically water-based sealers don't last as long. They tend to fade out and really break down over time. Solvent-based sealers, are really, really good. And so that's something you need to check in your area. Most solvent-based sealers, if you're using the correct ones, can be sealed. You can do that the same day. You don't have to come back days later or weeks and seal that curb. That can be done the same day. So it's been many, many years since I've come back to actually seal a curb. We do it before we leave, so we don't have to come back. So hopefully that helps you guys with integral colors. Check out all our other videos on curbuniversity.com, or we have a whole ton of them on our YouTube page. And hopefully that helps you. All right, guys, I will see you on the next one. Thanks.